So hey everyone, glad to see you live. So please let me know in the chat that you can hear and see well, and we're gonna start just in a second. So can you see and hear okay? Plus minus, if there's any issues, let me know, and we will. Okay, nice to see people from Kazakhstan, so that's great. I will add the template. We're gonna be the folder with the code which we developed last time, a little bit cleaned up. So the code is now in the chat and also in the description of the video. So please get the code. So that's first things first. Then the second thing, so let me briefly tell what's the plan for today. We'll see if we can manage all of that, but we will try. So, whoa, this is super big letters, not what I wanted. Okay, so I'm just waiting for you to get the code. Again, what you need to do is following. So please just open that folder. My suggestion is that you create separate folders, like the one root folder with the tutorials, and then in the root folder you will have session 1, session 2, session 3, and every time you open that folder itself. And when there will be homeworks, then you just continue by copying the folder and merging with the other code. So otherwise it will be very difficult if your root folder is not the actual folder of the template today. So please get this one. Otherwise, why I'm saying this is if you just open the controller here in the posts, you will see that it's importing something from model posts. And if you will have the root folder, there will be error there. So please make sure that you have this folder ready. If you have any issues with it, so let me know. Okay, so let's transition back to this one. So the plan for today, we'll see if we can manage all of that. So first of all, the HTML forms. So as I said, let's do everything very basic, just with raw HTML. So raw HTML forms. So that's one. Then raw CSS to make forms basically bearable. I mean, like usable. Otherwise, it's probably so bad that you cannot just use it at all. Like probably you can use it, but it's not then illustrative of what to do. So that's that as well. Then the next thing will be the handling of the HTML posts with Flask. And also get. So there are two types of requests we're going to look at today, but there are many other post, like put, and what was else there, patch, and all sorts of strange requests you can use. So that is that. And then then afterwards we're gonna look at what else. So handling posts, right? And then storing data in SQLite. I think it's written like that. Okay, I just need to close all other tabs. SQLite, I think it was like that. No, it was not. SQLite like that, without second L. Anyways, so we're gonna store the data there, and then finally visualize data on HTML. So and then next, so remember that the main idea what we are right now working is like CMS, content management system, blog platform. So that is what we are building now, and there will be quite a few steps needed to finish it. So it's not yet done at all. Okay. But even though these 5 steps, that is a lot for today as well, especially while we are trying to help people understand everything like from scratch. So we're not trying to assume that everybody knows everything. So we'll try to do this step by step, and If by any time I'm moving too fast or something is not clear, let me know please in the chat. So again, we'll use PyCharm as our base environment because there are some advantages of that. Of course, you can use Visual Studio Code as well, no problem, or something else, but I'm going to use PyCharm. Okay, so far so good. Let's start by first thing. So the main code, then I'm just pressing the bug icon, or if I'm pressing the left click and debug, if the PyCharm asks about the environment, remember that I last time showed you how to construct the environment from the environment file, YAML, or you can just select existing Python environment which has installed the Flask. And if by any chance you happen to have environment without the Flask, which is a shame, then you just press terminal here in the bottom part. It will automatically activate your environment, and there you can just type in pip install Flask. So that is the dirty way how to do this very quickly, not very clean way. So now if I run it, debug, it shows that please open this link, and if you click on that link, you should get the hello world situation. I will show you how it looks like. So where is my Chrome? So hello world. So this is what you should get right now from the template. So I'll go back to the template. As we have to do quite a few things today, let me check, is template running so far? Plus, minus, if there already we have some problems, let us know. Okay, good. I see some pluses. If we have some errors, then I suggest if you have errors, try to post errors in the chat. If I'm not responding, then definitely try to post them in Telegram or WhatsApp, because it means that I'm not receiving your posts. Like sometimes YouTube filters sensors, even the programming stuff. So anyways, so this is what we have. Okay, so let's go inside the controller post. So now we want to create the new post. So this will be the backend side. This will wait for data. This will not do anything right now, just wait for data. And what actually will do is the HTML template here, the views, posts, new. Remember last time Paul's helped us a lot out by saying that in this Flask constructor of a class, there is a parameter template folder which we could set up to views, so that we would have this nice structure of model, views, controller, right? So that's why it's able to find the views, posts, new HTML file. So the file looks like this, but of course this file is nothing now. We need to create something that collects data, and something which collects data in HTML is called form. So form, and so this is just using the pure HTML stuff that's available in the browsers. And of course you can also exploit forms by some command line tools. You can just submit all sorts of stuff to the APIs that receive the post inputs from forms, basically, without using any forms at all. That is also possible. That is really universal interface, very good and old interface. So then action, so the action is the endpoint where we want to send this data, to what kind of URL we want to send it. Again, let's use this syntax with two curly brackets, which means that please render some kind of string in this template using the Ninja template engine, which is built inside Flask. There are also all sorts of different template engines, but now let's look at this template engine. So now there is a function called URL for, so this is one of the the Flask built-in functions, which is often used. So it generates the URL on which we want to redirect stuff. So now we will write the class and the it's not actually class. So it's kind of, it's a strange syntax, sorry. So posts dot new, so it basically means the root and then the function. So you could get used to it, but basically, as you remember, we have the, let me show what I mean by that. No worries, I will also start dropping the code on the Jamboard if you're slow. So here, this is the Flask Blueprint. This is the URL prefix, or I think actually it maps to this first parameter, which is what? The name of the blueprint posts, and then the root name new. So, and it translates to back to, by the way, remember that this variable can be very different than this. So if I want, I can just write it as post new like that, and it will not be the same. So it will work still without any problems. So if I just restart it, it will map to the slash posts slash new, and it will still work. Let me check. Slash post slash new. Okay, so that part works. Okay, but the only thing which doesn't work now is that this mapping requires so the root and then actually the class name, which is now not the class name but function name, which is post new, if I remember correctly. Did I make it? Yes, post new. So now it should work. Let me check. Yeah, it works. So I also enabled in the main code. Again, sorry for jumping around. I just want to make sure that you understand what we have here. So in the main code we have the debug true. So that means that the code which we just started will refresh when we change things. I think at least in most cases. If something does not refresh, then you can stop it with this red rectangle and start it again, right? So, but I think it will refresh automatically. So let's go back to this part of the code where you're writing something. So we're first of all action. So this will generate. This is a really interesting example because it will generate different link than what's written here. So post new is the function name, post is the blueprint name, and the actual URL will be post slash new, not post slash post new. So that is something to keep in mind, that URLs can be different than the functions, and this is useful in a case like, I don't know, like if you have different subdomains for your system, or you want to like migrate to some different routes and stuff like that. Okay, so this is this. Then the other very important stuff is method. And this is what kind of HTML method we want to use to submit this form. By the way, we could also use the get method, and then it would submit all of our form as URL parameters that would be readable for users in the URL, and it will be really messy. There will be very, very long line of parameters, and this is not how usually forms work. So usually use post, but there is no rule that you could also use here get, and you could test out how it looks like, and it will be messy. So it's better to use post, at least in this case. So, okay, so that is that. So then let's start adding stuff in the form. Okay, let's do it as simple as possible. So label, title, and then there will be input, which will be these. By the way, also in HTML, a lot of things work by not closing it as an XML with these slashes, but please use slashes because that is the XML format and not some kind of strange HTML format where you can leave stuff without closing things. It's better to stick to some like format which is stable. You know, like I know break tags and input tags and all sorts of tags you can use without closing them in modern browsers, but that doesn't mean that that's the correct way to use HTML or XML format. So then here type. So there are very different types which you can use. like checkbox, button, even I think there is email file hidden. Hidden is really interesting type. We will look at that later. There is the, what else? All sorts of files, but let's use text. So text is the kind of text box basically. So that is that. And then name. So remember we talked, I think in previous courses, but to those of you joining new, there is in CSS styling, you usually use ID, right? But for the HTML posts, we do not use ID. ID does not work for HTML posts. Instead, the name attribute is super important. So let's use this as post title. Right. So then next label will be the body, actual text, what we want to enter there. We can even have the new lines here to make it nicer, right? So then text area, and this is a different type of field. We could use input type text, but the problem would be that that would be just one line, but we want actually multiple lines. And in HTML, there is another strange exception that for multiple lines, you use different type of input, which is completely different from our other, basically not completely. There's also select, like drop downs are also different. But text area is also like a text field, but with multiple lines. So, and this will be name. Again, name is super important. Without name, the post will not receive data. Only elements with name will be submitted to the post, and also only those elements which have some value which can actually be submitted, which is like input, text area select. So maybe there is some other fields. If somebody knows what are other fields, you can help out. So body, you can write in the chat if you know some other fields which are submitted automatically to the post. So the text area, post body, right? So that, and the last thing we need is some kind of button. So input type, and this again seems to be like a text box, but there is a specific type which is called submit, which triggers to submit this form. If I don't have that field, it will not submit this form. And here it will look like a button basically. The submit always look like a button, and we will write this, call this as a save, right? So now you already, with this super short code, we already learned a lot of features for HTML, which are important. So I will drop this line of this code in the Jamboard, and then we'll see who got so far already. And it seems already that I think we will not be able to make everything which I wanted, but we will try. So let me see. If I go now to the, so it looks like this, nasty, not nice at all. So we will definitely add some basic CSS. So let me go. Also, so it's so strange, like the fonts even are different. You see, like 3 types of fonts. And this is default rendering of browser. This is really strange, like 2022 and still browser acts like in 90s. So we go back here. Okay, I added to the Jamboard in slide number 2 that piece of code. So let me know if the code works so far. Does the code work so far? Plus, minus? So I see only 2 pluses. Let's little bit wait, I guess. Okay, I see really interesting stuff in the chat. So you're asking about the address. So the address is this one, but the address is something that you can get from the code. So basically it's post/new. It's not post/post/new, as I just explained, that there is this, this difference, which I wanted to emphasize, that the URLs does not always match the functions. So if I go here, you see in the controller posts, we have the root posts, and then there is the post/new. So mine is not rendered. What is this? So not rendered brackets. So it might be that something is wrong with your brackets, or because it should, like the code, like all other guys also have the same template. So in the worst case scenario, you can just delete this. And I'm not sure. I mean address in the forum action. Maybe you did not change this post new, because I did change post new. So if I go inside the controller post, you see I have def post new. It's not anymore new. I changed this specifically to illustrate the situation. So anyways, let's go down now. Let's create the style. So here, to add the HTML style, what you need to do is to call really strange stuff here. Like normally, if you want to write style, you would write something like this: style, type text CSS, and then I just write some style, like for example, I don't know, like body, background color, let's say light gray, right? So this would work, but this is not a nice way, because now every time when I have a new template, I need to write the style in line. So you should not write this kind of thing. You should include style from the style files. And to include style from style files, this is again some kind of old, strange HTML way. And there is, as far as I know, there is no nicer way to do this. So you write rel style sheet link. First of all, this element is link, which is located in head, and head is not rendered in the browser at all. So this is something that browser takes to know what kind of script should I, or some metadata should I use, but this is not rendered. The head part is not rendered, only the body part is rendered. So here we'll use the style sheet and href. And again, we'll use the same syntax as below to generate the path to the main CSS file. And in this case, we can use built-in stuff, which is built in the Flask. And this is, again, similar to the templates and views, what we discussed last time, is that there is a built-in constant for location of the static files. So static files means files which I want to serve as they are. So I don't want to mess with the main CSS or some JavaScript or styles. They should be, or maybe images, pictures, and stuff like that. They should be served as they are, static. So that's why it's static. So static, and this basically corresponds exactly with static folder. And if you don't like static folder, you can also override that in the main file, similar way as the templates. So static, and here there will be another 9 parameter file name, and here let's use the brackets. I mean the quotes with single quotes, and this will be main CSS. So that's about it. So if I copy this part of the code. Again, the upper part you don't need actually, it's just an example. You need only the link part. So I'm adding this also to the slide number 2. And let's check what we get. So I will show you a few things. Where did my Chrome? First of all, everything became gray, right? So let me see, how can I have the inspector? I will show you the inspector. Okay, so this is inspector. So if I press left button and choose the inspect, I get this nice panel where I can see my HTML code and inspect what we have in that code. And if you see here is the rendered link style sheet. I even can make it larger, right? Link style sheet, and if I press with the I think with the control or left click, open a new tab, it opens this main CSS file here. There's nothing inside main CSS file now, but it's actually linking, so that part is working. So now let's move back to the code. And in the code, let's start working with this main CSS file where we want to make something that looks a little bit more bearable. I mean, we're not going to make design awards. We just want to make that it doesn't look like total, I don't know, like 1990s website first edition. So here, let's write then HTML body. So again, we could actually stick with HTML alone. So in HTML, it actually usually works like that you can choose some specific element which you want to target with the style, but if you choose the parent element, then child elements also use the same style. So if I could use it for the HTML, it will use for all elements in HTML. So let's write font family. Let's make the font family something, I don't know, like Arial, not L, but Arial, right? Then let's make the input and comma text array. So the comma, again, we will talk a little bit more about CSS in following sessions. We talked about that in the previous iteration of the courses, but we're going to talk it again, so that if you write in CSS, so these are called CSS selectors. By the way, the comments look like this. And this is CSS selectors. And you can do a lot of things with CSS selectors, especially in JavaScript, but we will not use JavaScript in these sessions, but basically they are very powerful. So you can access any element in the HTML tree using the CSS selectors, and with some rules. This is very similar, that you can actually use also similar stuff for the XML. So if you have XML, you can use the XPath selectors. They are very similar. So the input is the node and the text array is also the node. Let's make them look a little bit better. So border width 1 pixel, border, again, if you use the pie chart, you will see very quickly that it gives you all of these things automatically, and you don't need to write it by hand, right? So that's very useful. Black, like that. And okay, so that will be that. And then let's also make that those elements are not just in one line, but they pretend to be like blocks, right? So let's write then label, input, comma means that I want to apply the same style for multiple elements. Text array, and let's write display block. So there is block and inline. Inline means add things like they naturally are, just in one line, and block separates them in blocks. There is also flex, which is more modern version of the block. So then text area, and text area is very small now. Let's make it larger, height. There are different ways. Okay, let's use pixels, but there is also AM, so this is different units for depending on the screen size, for example. Let's use pixels. So that part, and then what else? Maybe add some margin. So let's add margin here. Margin bottom 20 pixels, like that. So I hope this looks better. So yeah, it looks definitely better. At least maybe, yeah. Okay, I will show you how it looks like. First of all, before showing it, drop this code in the Jamboard. Definitely, I encourage you to play around with CSS selectors and look in the W3 Schools tutorials about the CSS selectors, because they are really important to making your forms usable. Otherwise, they look like really bad. So let me see. So this is how it looks like now. In the Jamboard on slide number 3, you have the code. So let me go back like that. So let me know in the chat. So is the style ready? So plus minus. Let's wait. So I see only 2 pluses. What errors do we have? By the way, if you have some problems, the way to debug these things is following. So you go inside the Chrome here when you run the code, and in the console here when you press left click inspect, right? You can see if these things are correct, then you can press, as I said, to open this one, the CSS file. Look if this is correct, and finally you can use this small like arrow function where you can see the computed style here, or the styles which have been applied. On the bottom right corner you see main CSS style is applied and stuff like that. So that is very, very useful, and even can dynamically can disable some styles or add some new styles, like see like background color, I don't know, like red, right? So see, I can add it. But of course, if I add it here in the Chrome, it will not be added in the file, and if I just refresh it, it disappears, okay? So that is that. Then let's go back to the code. Okay, so this is good. So now let's handle the posts. So if I now open the controller posts here, so this is the form which should accept the posts from the front end, right? So in order to accept the posts, we will need to write here comma methods post and get. So I want to use 2 methods. So first of all, I want to display this form. If I will have only post, it will have the error when I open this link, because it will not return any HTML at all. But if I have get and post for the same link, it would work. By the way, you can have different links. You can have one function for get and one function for post, only for one task. So that would also work. So then let's write the next thing. If request method post, like that. So the request.method post, so that means that basically there is a global variable that is called request. Again, this is very important to understand that the anything that happens in this piece of code exists only on this one request, basically. It does not, so you cannot store variables inside the controller post or some global space. Everything will be destroyed every time when this receives the next request. So that's why it's able to use this global variable request. And if you want to actually store something, then you need to use databases or sessions or files or anything like that. So request.method post. So this means that in this case, this is a post situation. And here we can then get the data. So post title. So this will be request. Actually, we could just construct immediately post without having it in two ways. So sorry, so let's write it. Post will be the model post. Remember, we created the model file, model class, I mean the data class, right? So post dot title, and then request a form. So there is this form again. The form is hard coded there. So then get, and the let's get the post title, and also we need to do the strip here, strip. So this is also important. This is just first thing to show you that any user inputs cannot be just passed to the database or any logic. You always need to sanitize the user inputs. User inputs can be anything, you know, like you can just enter like million lines of empty spaces or something like that. So this is just one very basic way to remove the empty spaces, but there should be more validation. So this one, it would have even code injections and all sorts of bad stuff. So then body, I hope there was a body, right? Yeah, body. So this will be body. Okay, so that's so far so good. Then we should store the data, right? So let's create here in the controller database another function. Let's create that function a little bit later in order for you to write the code here with me. So controller database, and we should import this. Okay, we cannot import. Okay, anyway, so controller database, insert post, post like this, and let's make that this will return post ID. And then afterwards, there is a very important step. What we could do, we just could pass back the body and title to the form, but it will result as really bad things, because always after any post, you need to have the get. So if you leave it as that, every time the user refreshes, it will just send the same post many times. This is kind of tricky stuff to understand. But if you play around with this, you will get it. So what you need to do next is to have return redirect. Again, this is from the Flask, so it will just send small header piece to say that please open other link instead of this link. So, and we want to open something which is URL, and this will be posts view. So we don't have yet that function, but we will create that function that I want to open where I can look at the view there. So that is that. And then also we need to have pass the post ID in that function, because I want to open specific post, right? So we'll have this part. And let's add here as well another function for the viewing of this post. So this will be just get now without post, and this will be view, and then also there will be the specific parameter here, which will be the post ID, like that. So this is again specific syntax for Python, for the Flask, how to pass the parameters inside this function. So that will be that. And then here we will need to show something, right? So let's write here the post. There will be probably something for the homework as well. So let's write here to do load from load model post from database. And meanwhile, let's create just dummy post here, post title dummy, right? And pass this post as a parameter down below here, post, like that. And here we need to have view, not new, but view. So I understand there's a few bits of code which I just wrote very fast. I will annotate them a little bit so you don't miss some parts of it, which are specifically important. I will color them. And then we'll add the other missing parts because, of course, we don't have yet the view template. We don't have yet the controller database function, right? So okay, I'm adding this to the Jamboard slide number 3 with the colors. And then switching to the Jamboard for a moment to wait for you to catch up. So is this part ready? Plus minus, let's wait if there's any problems. By the way, of course, if you write this, you will not be able to run it. So in order to at least run something, let me show you what you need to do at least to run something. So you need to add, first of all, you could add, just copy maybe the template to view, right? So I just copied the new to view, right? Like that. And also you could add the function static method in the controller database. So in the controller database, if I go here, I write the def static method with the post, which will be the model post. Again, this syntax of Python, which I just wrote, this can return 0 maybe at static method, like that. The syntax which I just wrote is the typing. So that is useful for Python and especially for the PyCharm environment to help you, to guide you to use these correct types in the code. Otherwise, you're going to use the wrong types and then there will be errors. So this part is hopefully done. I will restart my code and share these few things which I just created as well, just to make sure that it works so far. So let me see, refresh the browser. Of course, you also need to refresh the browser. Okay, controller database is not defined. I maybe wrote something wrong. Static method, controller post, controller database. I need to import the database. So to import the database in PyCharm, you need to add this line up front. And to do this is the very easy way to do this is by pressing Alt+Enter, Alt+Enter on the fragment of the code which is red. So I will now add these few lines as well to make sure that you will see that it works so far. So this part needs to be added up the import, right, in the slide number 4. And also let's create a dummy function for the controller. So the dummy function for the controller. And also the copy for the view, right? So adding these few things to the Jamboard slide number 4, right? And if everything works well, okay, there is okay, insert post missing, something missing. What is missing? Insert post. Oh man, it should not be self. Okay, this is a static method without self. So let me again update a little bit Jamboard. So the static methods do not have self pointer. So two things, the view template and the dummy function needs to be added, so this would work. So now, let me see, still something not working. View with the values, so let me show you what I get. So I get this kind of dummy error, and to get this off, there means that post view with value post ID. Did you mean post view? Right. Yes, I meant the other thing, which is correct. Well, the Flask understood what I meant. So in the controller post, there is a bug here. It should be post view. Okay. So I will highlight the bug for you as well to fix. Again, this is the same idea which I illustrated, that the URL and the function can mismatch each other. This is something which happens often. So that is added to the Jamboard as well. And now it works. So let me show you. So after I submit the form, I get a new empty form with the link /post/view/0. So that should be that. Now let's go back here. And the last thing to do here to make it a little bit more understandable. So first of all, if I open here, I can in the view, so I open just view HTML here. And instead of having form, this is just showing the post, not having the form, right? So instead, then let's write that this will be the title. So post title. And here in the P tag, which is the paragraph tag, let's have post body. And if everything goes well, you should have seen in your browser the large title dummy, because of course we don't yet store the actual data, we just collect the data in the backend but not store it yet. So if we store it and then get back from the database, remember that each request is separate. There is no such thing that you can store like prefetched the data in the backend just in between requests. So each request is separate entity. So every time when you refresh the page or you, I don't know, like post the page, every time this is a separate request where you need to save things and then load again when you get them. So, so far so good. I posted in the Jamboard a few things as well. So let me show you how it looks like. It should look something like this, the dummy. Right? So now let's go back to the scene. So is it working so far? Is it working so far? Plus, minus. I think we're definitely not gonna be able to get the full material, but at least next step to think about and experiment a little bit. So let's wait for you to catch up. I added everything that's necessary. I added everything that's necessary to the Jamboard, by the way, so far. So great job, guys. You see that you got it. It's everything working for you. That's great. So let's then work with this a little bit with the data structure. So I'm getting the model post and I want to get the model post ID basically. Or I could actually just return post with ID field. That would be maybe even better. So let me write down to do return post with post ID. So that would be even better. Anyways, so in the database folder, let's add new. Well, how to make that was database folder. Okay, it seems like that you cannot add it like that. Okay, let me think. Okay, so let's press here on the right side the database tools. By the way, if any chance you don't have those database tools installed for the plugin, then please install it till the next time. So then you press the, so let me share the full screen here. So now the database tools, database source, then let's use the SQLite here. It says drivers missing, so I press download drivers here. Now I have the drivers, so that is good. Then there is the file, identifier SQLite. Instead, I want not the identifier SQLite, but I want this to be in database folder. Okay, very strange. Okay, so database folder, and this will be my blog database, right? Like that. And then I press OK. So I created SQLite data source. Now I pressed OK. Let's see. Okay, it's nothing appeared here. Unfortunately, that's strange. Anyway, it should have appeared something. Let me see. So where is my location of this database? Should be there. Interesting. Anyways. Oh, okay, it appeared here in the root, not in the folder. Anyway, so even if it appears in the root here, don't worry. So that is that. Then let's add the table, new table. And this will be posts table, right? So just a second. Oh, what is this? Tables, add new table. And you should have the same properties as in the model post. So posts. Then the if you remember when we started talking about the databases, these were a few things we already discussed, but no worries, we will repeat them. So the primary key, the main key, main identifier for each row, auto increment, and then some fields here. So title, this will be var character. So var char means variable character with the length of maximum length of 512 characters. If I don't have the varchar but just char 512, it will also include the spaces. So and then the body, which should be text, and text is binary. It's kind of text format without the limit, except the limit of the disk space, right? So very large text. So that, and it's a lot less selectable. So it's hard, it's long, it's not so fast. That is that. Then also should be useful to add the created, and this will be the time, date, time. I think it should be like that. And then this will be current timestamp. I hope it was correct like that. Maybe something is wrong. Maybe this should be timestamp. Maybe timestamp. And modified timestamp, current timestamp. So I will not have really much time now to finish this really nicely. If I, okay, execution, so it doesn't like that there is these brackets, so there should not be those brackets. I don't know why it's adding the brackets. But So yeah, so please try just to create this table here, so it's created, right? Try to play around with it, so you can open it, add the rows here, and the next time we're going to start working more with data and showing the data, and yeah, we'll try to prepare the template, but at the same time it would be great if you could start from your own template. So please add missing fields here. I just added a few of those. There should be also the what was else there? The status field, which should be probably also varchar. Then the thumbnail field, the URL slug field, maybe is deleted field would be nice. So please add all of those, and next time we're going to continue working on this. So great that you joined so far. So please explore a little bit more these things which you just started working, and next week we will work more with them. Okay, so that's it for today.